It's about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hello and welcome to the first meeting of our C++ / digital signal processing / JUCE study group meeting, and we have a good crowd here today. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you all doing?
Pretty good.
Fine.
And we also have some other people who are on the call but not sharing the video, and we may have other people on YouTube on the chat. So hello everyone who is not visible on the screen but is here with us tonight. Hello. So to kick things off, I want to know everyone who is here. We have some old-time favorites like Fotis right next to me here on the other side, but we also have some new people, and I want to get to know you all, and then we can discuss things like when we are going to meet, how often, for how long, what kinds of things we want to cover, and who is interested in learning what, and our backgrounds, that sort of stuff. And to kick things off, I'm going to introduce myself, and I think we can go around and introduce ourselves and talk about where we've been before, what we do, what we would like to learn. So to get things started, I am Leandro. I am, well, a streamer here on YouTube. And on my streams, lately, I am live coding audio effects. And my streams are usually about live coding, different subjects. Lately, it has been on audio effects. And I got interested in that because I have always played the guitar and I have always been interested in effects. But lately I got into Reaper. I wanted to edit podcasts, and then I learned from this tutorial by Podigy. It's a company that edits podcasts, and they wrote this beautiful article explaining how to edit podcasts in Reaper. Then I learned all about Reaper and I was in love. So I started writing JS effects, which is like this language that only works in Reaper to develop audio effects in real time. It's super cool. There are limitations, and that's why I got interested in C++. So I got into the gateway drug for me was Reaper and JS effects. And I really need to shout out to the person who is behind Podigy, because he's like one of our biggest patrons and one of our biggest supporters on the channel. And I really appreciate his support. So I got into audio effects, and really the thing that I care about, the reason why I want to develop audio effects is not necessarily for the sound. Of course, sound comes first, but I think that what is really missing is effects with great visuals. And by that, I don't necessarily mean faceplates that look like hardware, but things like, when you know how if you load the compressor in Ableton Live, or when you use something like the Fab Filter compressors and limiters and that sort of thing, you can see what's going on. You can see what the effect is doing to the waveform. And I think that that is so helpful for beginners like myself, but for anyone really. I mean, research shows that if you hear and see something that makes sense and you can correlate what you see with what you hear, that helps a whole lot. So that's why I'm into this. I want to develop audio effects that help you see what's going on and that help you guide your decisions. So not necessarily shiny buttons, but great visuals that help you use the effect. And besides my stuff here on YouTube, I am also a software developer. I have been a software developer professionally for about 20 years at this point, but I have never written a single line of C++. So I'm looking forward to learning. I guess it's the final frontier. Anything that you can do with a computer, really, you're going to do it with C++, and that's the bare metal, or as close as we get to it anyway. So that's who I am and what I'm interested in and why I want to develop audio effects. So Fotis, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. My name is Fotis Kyrgiazidis. I'm from Greece, and I'm a sound designer and music maker. And I have made one plugin which was in the Maze sampler format. It's called Organic Calcium Kit, but it was nothing special. I didn't code it. It was just a front end for making a sampler plugin. So the reason why I'm here is because I want to learn how to make audio plugins from scratch. I aspire to make a brand new version of my plugin and also some other ideas that I have, plugins that nobody else has ever made. So we'll reinvent the wheel together.
I am all in for reinventing the wheel. I guess another thing that I'm interested in is just learning, even if I know that there is a plugin that does everything that I want to do. There is like a tuner. What more can you want from a tuner? But still, I want to learn how a tuner works. What is the algorithm to find the pitch of a sound? That sounds like something interesting. And it may be applicable to other things. Like you may use something like a filter that tracks pitch, and that's fun. But just learning how a tuner works is also something that I'm interested in doing. So anything that you want to add?
Not for the time being.
All right. So Rafael, how are you doing?
Good. So yeah, my name is Rafael, and I'm a software engineer as well. And I've been working on cloud technologies the last 4 years, mostly in Golang. So I have little to no experience in C++. And as you can see, I like musical instruments and wanted to combine those two things I love in a new way and just kind of learn and see what's involved in that space.
Right. And do you have any experience building effects or even using effects? Like I know you have instruments, but have you produced music using compressors, limiters, EQs, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I use Ableton for that kind of stuff. I also have hardware effects that I use. And then I also like to experiment with hardware, electronics. So I've done hardware effects and stuff like that, simple circuits, but nothing in the software world.
And did you like solder pre-existing projects or did you come up with new designs?
So I've mostly done pre-existing projects or circuit designs that I've seen for basic stuff. I've experimented on basic circuits that are very, very simple. So I wouldn't call myself an electronics expert by any means.
But you can tell a capacitor from a resistor, and that's more than I could say a few months ago. Right. So Victor, how are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. It's my lunch break, sort of. I'm in Austin, Texas. I work at a large computing center, and so I speak a number of programming languages, and I've taught classes in C++, so I should be fairly decent in it. I play a whole bunch of instruments. Behind me are my string instruments, but I'm actually more of a wind player. And I've done a lot of recording in Logic, so I know what effects are and how to use them. But it kind of bothers me that I can use the effects and I can program, but I cannot program effects. So I'm kind of intrigued by learning how what digital signal processing is about. I don't have any project in mind, but I'm sure I'll come up with something.
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I do know about C++ is that it has changed over time. And there are some people who swear by the old C++, and there are people who write C++ in newer styles. So where are you at? Do you follow, like, for instance, Reaper, that I said that I use Reaper, and Justin Frankel, who develops Reaper, says that he is writing C++ like it's 2005, and he doesn't care because it just works. And are you in that camp, or are you in the modern C++ camp?
I am firmly in the C++ 17 camp, and as the 20 features come out, I incorporate them in what I'm doing. So now C++ 11 is the big change from old style to new, and that is just a big improvement. All sorts of things are easier and more elegant and all that. So none of the old stuff. I've written in C for a long time, and I am so glad that C++ makes life a whole lot easier for me.
How so?
Parameter passing, you don't have to count your stars. Arrays know how big they are, and you can extend them if necessary. So no memory leaks anymore. It's just a way better language, and it's just as efficient. I mean, in execution.
Right. Okay. So, sorry, I don't know your name, last person over here, because you still show up for me as guest 787A791A-0B. I don't think that's your name. So, hello. How are you doing? What's your name?
Hello, I am Ajay. I'm from India. I'm a first year CS student. I started learning C++ some months back. Before that, I was jumping to Java, then Python, then web programming. Then I started learning about digital logics, then compilers, then binary analysis. And then I saw a GitHub link. I click on it. I go to Discord, and I'm here.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question. How did you all find out about this? Because I tend not to post too much. I don't want to be known as the person who annoys everyone with their links. I prefer to maybe not reach as many people as I maybe could, but not be known as the annoying guy. But this time, because I wanted to have some folks here, I posted in Reddit and in some Discord groups. So where did you all find about this?
Reddit.
I thought so. I thought that Reddit was going to be the main one. Most people are there. Yeah,
same here.
And so it seems like you don't have a lot of experience using audio effects or working with digital audio workstations. Am I right?
I am.
No, I was talking to you.
Sorry.
Do you have a lot of experience working with audio? Our guest 787?
No, I have some experience in C++. I know the basics, data structures, pointers, and some basic algorithms. I can just learn quickly because I have just jumped around here and there. So I know I'm just getting a feeling of how everything works here.
Absolutely, yes. I guess one of the things that we could cover, besides just the logistics, we could talk about today, like the basics so that everyone is in common ground. So we could talk about like things that, in fact, many books are going to take for granted, like how sampling works with audio and what is the Nyquist frequency, all those sorts of things that I think that we should follow some material. In fact, I have a suggestion of something that we could follow, a book. And I read the first few pages of the book, and it kind of takes for granted that you know some things. So I think we should all talk about this to see if we are on the same page, because I'm sure there are some things that I assume that are probably wrong. So I want to talk about it so people can correct me and that sort of thing. But we also have more people here on the call who are not sharing their camera. I don't know if they're still here, but are you all here? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
No, okay, but I mean, Bo, for instance, are you still here on the call?
Like I said, I don't know if you can all hear us.
Yes, of course we can hear you.
Okay, and is there anyone who is on the call on Skype but is not sharing their camera?
Yes.
Hello.
Little bit. Hello.
Hello. So,
Hello.
hello, who are you?
Hi.
Introduce yourself.
My name is German. I'm from Latvia. Currently live in Malta, so I have little problems with the internet and can disappear somewhere. I don't know. Okay, I'm basically I'm a musician playing a couple of instruments: drums, guitar, piano, keys. Yeah, but in my free time, I'm learning. For now, I'm learning programming with C++. Previously, it was C, and I was programming microcontrollers. Yeah, have made my own MIDI keyboard for my computer. Got some experience in Reaper, in Ableton. Got some hardware stuff also. Yeah. Maybe.
Fun stuff. And is there anything like that you have in mind, something that you want to build?
My idea is mostly not about some plugin development, but I have a couple ideas which I don't know how to explain this. It's all about music, also about sound, but it's little more huge than just plugin development. But it also includes them.
Okay.
So I think this would be good experience for me.
Sounds good. Anyone else who is on the call and didn't introduce themselves?
Yeah, hi. My name's Tom. I'm from England. Yeah, I currently work as a software engineer in C++ and Python. And I also play guitar. And yeah, I'm basically really interested in trying to make stuff on the computer, like plugins, to analyze the guitar's sound and have real-time effects that I can play around with. I've done a little bit of playing around before, but I haven't got anything beyond like a simple low-pass filter or a simple fuzz or something like that. So I want to kind of build out and play around and learn more about proper signal processing. So yeah, thought I'd join this meeting.
Alrighty. And according to the list of guests that I have here on my screen, there is someone else still on the call. If you are here on the call and you haven't introduced yourself, say hi now. Okay, so I guess
Hi, you can read my quick recap. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I saw that here. Developer with 20 years of experience, fiddled with C++, using Arch Linux. Okay. I've been an Arch user in the past. And I don't know much about the state of audio plugins in Linux. I hear that it's a lot better than it used to be, but I don't think that you can necessarily run all audio effects like regular stuff that you would find on the web, like FabFilter plugins and that sort of thing. There's like a niche of plugins that work on Linux, right?
There is a bridge that's called YA bridge or YA bridge that allows you to run Windows VSTs on Linux.
And how good is that?
I don't know. I've never tried it. I just found it on GitHub once.
Okay.
It exists. I can't vouch for it.
I mean, there are awesome projects that try to bridge any kind of platform into any other kind of platform, but I find that usually it doesn't work as well as advertised. I mean, I love the effort put into all of this, but it's always better to just run natively on the platform for which the thing was developed. And I know that there is a community of people working on audio effects for Linux, including the LV2 plugin standard or API, however you want to call it, which of course works in other platforms, but I think it came from the Linux world. But I don't know much. I would be interested in learning more. Right, so it's nice that we have some people who know C++. Do you maybe have recommendations for people like myself who have zero experience with C++ just to get started? Because we have several things that we want to learn and they are related, but they're not quite the same. C++, digital signal processing, and JUCE. C++ is like the language and it's used for many other things. Digital signal processing is more like theory and mathematics and that sort of thing. And then JUCE is a framework using C++ for digital signal processing. So I think that there should be some background on like C++ for people who are like me, very new to C++, and then maybe we can catch up to the level that you are at. And then maybe someone who knows C++ isn't as well-versed in digital signal processing, and someone knows a lot more about the mathematics of things, and then they can explain the mathematics, and that's why we have a group here. So do you have recommendations for things that will get us up to speed in the C++ land?
Personally, I think it's really quite difficult because there's quite a lot of revisions to the language which have come out over time, right? I mean, as Victor was saying earlier, there's like C++ 11, which did a massive revamp of kind of things. So a lot of times when you're Googling things, you're going to end up finding the old style. So I think it's really kind of just worth focusing on the C++ 17 and modern approaches, and try not to get like sidetracked down deprecated stuff. But it can be difficult to know what's old and what's new.
I guess you all will have to be our guides when we start writing in old styles or find sources that refer to old style C++. You can point us in the right direction, but there is no like book or video series or anything that you can recommend at this point.
Yeah, I have a question about that regarding JUCE. Will it require the old way or the new way of C++? There's another.
I've looked in JUCE into JUCE before, and that's written in modern C++. So we should be happy.
Oh. We should stick to the new one.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Right, and when it comes to digital signal processing, do you all have sources or any kind of material that you all want to share? Because I do have something in mind. There is this book I read. It is available online for free, which is a plus. If you go to dspguide.com, this is not going to teach you how to write plugins in C++. but it is going to teach you some of the basics, and I think that is advantageous. I find that, yes, that link that has been posted here on the Skype chat, and I'm also going to post it over there on YouTube. And Arya is here. Well, he will be here soon, so see you soon, Arya. He said as much on the chat. Right, so the point of this book is that it's going to teach you like the basics of what signals are and how to design filters, and you don't necessarily want to read the whole thing. It's 600 pages, but it will give you an idea of the breadth of digital signal processing, because it's a lot more than just audio. And there are some chapters that are really good in there. So to understand the fundamentals of linear systems, I find that chapter 5 is really good at that. And then convolution as well. And I like the explanation of the discrete Fourier transform. The thing to note about this book, however, is that it's somewhat old. And the basics and the mathematics is still the same, so that's fine. But the book is like from 1997, I think. Yeah, it's about 30 years or 20 years old at this point. It's something like that. So there are some chapters that talk about like hardware for digital signal processing. And you can expect that it's going to be outdated. Some of it is still relevant because like embedded systems are going to have some of the same limitations as old hardware did. But you want to read that, like you want to take it with a grain of salt. But if you are completely new to digital signal processing and you don't know how sampling works, you have no idea what the Nyquist frequency is, you have never heard of the Fourier transform, all those things, then this is a good source to just get tidbits here and there. And the book, I think, is written in a way that is fairly straightforward if you just want to jump in the middle and read about something. And at least if you need something from previous chapters, it's going to tell you, like I said in chapter 3, and then you go to chapter 3 and you read that. So anything else that, any other resources that you all want to share? Yeah, you have raised your hand here on the Skype call, so.
Can you tell me something about DSP in short, like 3-4 sentences? What is DSP and why it is important?
Yeah, sure. So
For what?
digital signal processing, well, signal is kind of vague, and that's kind of on purpose because many things can be signals. Audio is a signal. I mean, if you take sound and you capture it with a microphone, then it's going to become a signal that represents the pressure of the waveform produced by my mouth over time. That's a signal. And the video that we are chatting with here is also another kind of signal. The image is a signal, and the signal being different colors for different pixels. But it goes beyond that. So radio transmissions are signals as well. Radars are signals. So this is even imaging in medical equipment, also another area for digital signal processing. So that's what a signal is. It's just data over time or data over space. Like when I'm speaking and the microphone is capturing the sound, that's data over time. And when you see a picture, that's data over space. So that's the signal. Digital, it just means that we are going to work with signals that are not continuous in time, like electricity on a cable is, the voltage of the electricity on the cable is going to change continuously over time. We are using computers and we are going to work with representations of signals that are digital, so binary, zeros and ones. So you take the audio, you convert it into a bunch of zeros and ones, and then you work with that. And processing just means that we are going to change that signal somehow. So when we speak about audio, right now I am speaking into the microphone and there is a process that is going to change the sound that goes into the microphone to take out some of the noise from the room, and then some other process that is going to equalize the frequencies so that it sounds better. It doesn't sound too bassy or too trebly. And then there is something else that is going to compress the volume so it doesn't sound too loud when I speak loudly or too quiet if I whisper. So all of this is just taking the original sound, the signal, and processing, changing it somehow. And what I find fascinating is that...
Noise cancellation?
Sorry?
Noise cancellation something.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first thing in my signal chain, actually. The first thing that happens to the sound coming from my microphone is that I remove noise. So noise suppression is a kind of digital signal processing. And what I find fascinating is that some of the processes that you would apply in one signal, like sound, for instance, filtering low frequencies, something that you may want to do. You can do that with sound, but it also makes sense to do that with images, and that has a visual result. So yeah, I think that's digital signal processing in a nutshell. Can you all interject and add more information?
Sure. May I begin?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, one very popular example of digital signal processing is distortion for guitars by emulating an actual amp or by creating a distortion from scratch. Another one would be the all famous auto-tune. It is digital signal processing. What else? The reverb and delay are two effects that are in every musician, producer, or even DJs chain. Sometimes they use some effects to spice up their DJ sets, and that's all DSP. And speaking of noise cancellation, I found this very crazy one. I'm gonna put it in the chat of the Skype. It's called The Bird, and it's like noise reduction, only it filters out the sounds of birds in field recording. That's the most specific use of DSP I could think of.
That's crazy.
I think I would like something the opposite. If I'm recording a bird, I want to filter out the traffic.
Oh, you can simply use the delta signal, so you can invert the phase, so you can only keep the birds. It is possible.
Okay.
Reaper recently got a feature that's called Delta. You press Alt and click on the dry wet knob, and you can actually listen to the inverted signal with just one click. It saved me a lot of time.
Right. So let's get out of the way some of the logistics here. How often do you all want and are available to meet?
Oh, anytime.
That's good. I was thinking that we could do this every week or every other week, because I also want to give people the time to do the things that we decide to do. Like if we decide that we are going to read a chapter from a book, or if we decide that we are going to try to do a prototype of a project or something, we need to give people time. I guess most of us are either doing a day job, or we are going to the university, or we have other things that we need to take care of. So I think that every week may be good. Maybe every other week could be nice. So I'm reading some people saying once a week or twice a week, or every other week.
Every other week is good, and this time is perfect.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I heard from some people in the US and I guess Canada that this time wasn't perfect because like it's in the middle of the afternoon.
It can work. It's a week-to-week thing. If I can take my lunch breaks at this time, I take them, but it's hard to commit to it.
Okay. So how about we try every other week? So it is enough time for us to do whatever we decide that we are going to do. And we will have like a lot of time to plan. So we know that we are meeting in 14 days, so we can plan our lunch break accordingly to make things work. So I guess the next meeting will be, and I guess Tuesday works well for us because we are all here, but is there any other day of the week that would work better for you all? Okay, so no comments means probably Tuesday is fine.
Comments.
So the 15th would be 2 weeks from now. So I guess that's when we are going to meet. And the duration of our meetings, I think we should leave open-ended, because if we are doing something like just logistics like we are right now, it can be shorter. But if we are super into sharing all this stuff that we learned in those 2 weeks, then we probably want to go a bit longer. It's probably going to be like 1 hour and a half or something like that. Do you all have ideas about this? Do you think that maybe having shorter meetings would be necessary, or having longer meetings would be desirable?
Let's cap it at an hour, I would say, but...
Okay. Sounds good. And do you all have ideas of what we should be doing, at least to begin with?
So we need to download JUCE or something. Does it need a host? Does every host work? If I write something, can I integrate it in Logic, or should I download Reaper too? So just to getting started will be...
I think that actually that's a great idea. So something that we should do for next time is to make sure that we can run JUCE, compile a plugin, drop it in our DAW of preference. So if you're using Logic, you can use Logic, sure. And if you are using Reaper or Ableton, or if you are like me and you have all three of these and you want to test in all of them, that's usually even better, right? You want to make sure that your plugin is working in every DAW. So I guess that's a great thing that we can all do, sort of our task for 2 weeks from now, is to download JUCE and go through the tutorials there. There are videos explaining this as well on YouTube that we can follow. But I already went over this process and it's relatively straightforward. You just download this thing called the Producer. The Producer is this standalone app that is going to generate projects for you. So it's going to spit out a project that you can open in Xcode when you are on Macs, or that you can open in Visual Studio if you are on Windows, and that you can just compile using CMake, whatever your operating system is. If you are on Linux, Mac, or Windows, you can always use CMake. So it's going to spit out the project, and the project is going to have like a scaffold, some boilerplate that you can decide what kinds of plugins you want to produce. So if you want to produce VSTs, or if you want to produce even a standalone app, you can do that as well. And audio units, maybe just Mac. I don't think you can produce an audio unit from Windows, but you can definitely produce an audio unit on the Mac, and then you can just select, I want to produce VSTs, audio units, and then it's going to spit out a project. You can open it in your program of preference, Xcode or Visual Studio Code, Vim, Emacs, whatever you want to do. And then from there, you can compile, and it's going to produce the VST audio unit. You drop it in your plugins folder and load it in Logic. So it's relatively straightforward to do all of this. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to how Producer works, and I'm sure that you all, given some time, will be able to get to that. And there are other things that we can use besides JUCE, and there are other frameworks that we can use. So maybe if you are not completely sold on JUCE, is there anyone who thinks that they don't like JUCE and they want to use something else like iPlug and well, there are others. I guess.
Oh, I don't know about the the differences between JUCE and iPlug? Do they both have pros and cons? We should weigh in all the options.
Yeah, from what I understand, most people are using JUCE, so I guess that's one advantage. Most people are using it.
Yeah.
The disadvantage is that if you want to sell your plugin, then there are some license restrictions. You have to pay JUCE to be able to do that. I mean, JUCE is open source. So if your plugin is open source, you are good. And everything that at least I will develop and everything that we'll develop here together, I think should be open source. But then if you want to go off and do your own plugin, then JUCE is going to be maybe expensive. While things like iPlug, they have smaller communities, maybe the features aren't the same, and maybe there are features that are lacking, but the license is more permissive. That's my understanding anyway. But it could be something that you do. You could explore some of these. I know there are others, like you mentioned here on the chat, DPF, and you can also just go bare bones and work with the VST API directly instead of using a framework in the middle. So you can try all of these and then you can share what you learned 2 weeks from now. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Oh, and Bo is saying something interesting on the chat. For the free version of JUCE, they own your code by default. That is... I challenge that. I think that JUCE is GPL. They don't own your code, but they require you to share your code with the same license unless you pay. I don't think.
I think that JUCE was bought by a company last year.
Yeah, it switched. JUCE switches hands often.
Yeah, it was bought by Pace, the guys who made iLock. That's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, there is a whole conversation we could have about the state of audio plugins being sometimes paid and expensive, but sometimes open source, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of these business models, because there are people making money out of open source plugins, like the VCV rack stuff, and there are some people who like object to the idea of closed source software on principle. So it's actually an interesting conversation because there are other spaces where closed source software is like the standard. No one thinks about it. And there are spaces where open source is the standard. No one thinks about it. But in the audio community, it seems like there is a clash. And Arya joined the call. Arya, are you here?
Yeah.
Yes. Hi. I'm sorry I'm late. I don't know if y'all are hearing me.
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah,
but
I can hear you.
Cool. Yeah, sorry I'm late. Work meeting went kind of over time. So I was seeing like I was just watching on mute. I don't know why. But yes, I'm here. Sorry.
You just like the look of our faces, that's all. So Arya, who are you?
I want to
Where do you come from?
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt the flow of things. But hi, everybody. Real quick, I'm Arya. I'm from Iran. Now I live in Canada, in Montreal, to cut a super long story short.
And what is your experience developing audio effects and C++ and all the good stuff?
In C++, basically none at all. I used to be really decent at Max MSP. I've used like VCV rack, stuff like that, but from the user end. So yeah, but in terms of programming, not much. I guess I feel that I have some creative ideas for like stuff that I don't think exists, but from the technical side, yeah, basically zero.
Well, you're holding back. You do have experience developing audio plugins.
Little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, you can see me trying to find Arya on the list of people over here. Arya, why do you not show up as a name? You show up as a code, and I don't know what your code is.
That's interesting.
Now you're there.
On my end, yeah, there you go. Okay, cool.
Now you're there.
I wanted to add something about the framework, if I may.
Yeah.
yesterday I was watching, no, 2 days ago, I was watching the latest video by my friend Chris from Air Windows, who is also another great resource because he has made a lot of coding live streams using C++, so you can see what he's doing. Anyway, he said that he is going to support this format that I posted in the Skype chat. It's called Clap. And he said that the people who are making Clap are basically trying to reinvent the wheel. They're trying to circumvent all of the sorry, I'm trying to find the word, the shortcomings of the VST and audio unit framework. So they're trying to completely make a new format that will be open source and cross-platform, because you know that even when a developer makes a cross-platform plugin, that they have to jump through all the hoops to make it compatible as a VST2, as a VST3, as a Windows one, as a Mac one, as a Linux one, as an AU, as an LV2.
Do you know this?
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly that.
Do you know this one?
I love this one, yeah.
I'll leave it here on the screen for a second for you all to get into the joke. And on this scene, I am not sharing all your faces because I thought that all your faces plus the screen would be too much to share. But yeah, that's what happens. So do you know how these people are going to try to avoid this problem?
I hope so, because you know that Steinberg has ceased any sort of support for VST2. They did stop supporting VST2 back in October 2018, I think, but I believe that this year the rules only became stricter. And that's weird because do you guys know Analog Obsession? It's a plugin developer that has a Patreon. All of his plugins are free. And there is one specific plugin that he made that's called Neckar, I think. And it's a console summing kind of plugin that allows you to, for those who don't know, console summing is when you put together all your tracks from your session and saturate them in a way that you would emulate an analog console, the way it puts all the instrument tracks together into one song. But he said that he had a problem implementing some of those features in VST3, so he had to only make that particular plugin VST2, and that's pretty crazy. It's a newer version, and you can do stuff that's good in VST2.
I didn't know that. That's actually interesting.
Yeah. Maybe he has made an VST3 now. I haven't checked in a while.
The thing that I do know about VST2 is that you can no longer get a license for it. So if you have been a plugin developer, then you have a way of publishing VST2. But Steinberg, the company behind VSTs, they no longer release licenses for people who are getting into developing plugins these days. So you can only do VST3. And there are some hosts like OBS that I'm using right now for this stream that don't support VST3 yet. So it's an awkward situation that we are in. We are in the transitioning period, because I think that in the future everyone will be using VST3. But
I got a question on that, because Fotis, you were saying so Clap is like gonna get over the limitations of VST and AU. What are their limitations? Like what? Yeah, because I guess from a user endpoint, I guess I'm not aware. I mean I know VST3 like can resize and stuff like that, but what are some other ones?
Well, I have no idea because I just found about that 2 days ago. Sorry. But I did post the link in the Skype chat. If you can see it, I'll post it again.
Yeah, and for people who are watching us on YouTube, for instance... I
can post it there as well.
Yeah, for people who are on YouTube but not on the call, I will go over the Skype chat and I will paste everything on the video description over here. So check back here later. I don't think that you will be able to share links on the YouTube chat because YouTube just doesn't allow that.
You're right.
It is what it is. Whatever. Check back here later. And better yet, I have another thing that we all need to discuss, which is I thought that we are probably going to write some code, right? I sure hope that we're going to write some code together. So I put up this repository here on YouTube, and I want you all, if you are watching this on YouTube and you want to be a part of this, then it applies to you. You are invited. And you all who are here on the call with me, make sure that if you don't have a GitHub account, create one and send me your username so that I can invite you to this repository and we can start writing code here together. And we can also use this repository to share all the links and interesting things. So everything that I mentioned, like the book that I think is a good resource for people who want to learn about the basics, and the books that you all have been mentioning here on the Skype chat, and even the book that or whatever material we decide to cover in these 2 weeks, we can all put the links here. And then I will also add you to the list here of people who are part of the group. So yeah, make sure that you send me in whatever way you want. You can go to the Discord channel, you can email me, you can put the link here on the Skype call, whatever. I will get it. Just make sure you send me your username and I will add you to this repository. And this is where we will write code together and write prototypes and that sort of thing. I think it will be a lot of fun.
Is Discord going to be the communication channel while we're not on this call?
I suppose, yes, if it works for you all. And I know some people who don't want to be on Discord, just want to use email, so that's fine too. We can have a mail thing going if you prefer. I guess these days communication is kind of fractured. Everyone is in different social networks, and kind of GitHub is its own social network. It comes with a discussion forum kind of thing. So yeah, it's all over the place, and we will be in all those places, I think. Right, so I do have one activity that I want to propose, and I'm going to propose, okay? So I wanted to have something that we could do. And if you all think that there is something else that we should be doing, completely fine. It's just a proposal, and I want to hear your proposals as well. But I'm going to say something that I think we could do for the next 2 weeks. Arya, I think you joined us later. So the next meeting is going to be 2 Tuesdays from now. So on the 15th is going to be our next meeting. So 2 weeks is probably plenty of time for us all to go over and read and try things out. For instance, Fotis is going to find out what are the limitations of VSTs. The step people are going to try to solve. Right, so the activity that I propose is to follow along with a book. This book has been recommended by Justin Johnson, who streamed with us. He was a guest on the show, I want to say like 1.5 months ago, something like that. Justin Johnson is
November 18th, 2021.
Oh, but that was...
Because it was...
No, that was the first time he was with us, but I am talking about the second time. Yeah, you were not there for that one. You were unavailable that day. But we did talk about some deeper digital signal processing stuff, and we went over his plugin. It's called ReEQ, and it is written in JS Effects, not C++. It only works in Reaper natively. But he recommended this book because now he is working with C++ as well. He's developing plugins using C++. He's writing synthesizers in particular. But he recommended this book. And I think giving it a brief read and by some other things I read on the web, it's kind of a nice book. So maybe we could give this a try. And that's this book over here. It's right on the money, right? C++ for audio effects. So the idea of this book is that it's going to bridge the gap between the theory-heavy books and the plain just programming books. And this book has chapters on theory. So there will be chapters here on things like what is a filter, how to design one. But it also goes to the practical side. So it has chapters on the APIs that you would expect to use for developing plugins, from VSCs to audio units, and also the AVID for Pro Tools. And I think that this might be a good book to get us started. The problem is that this book kind of takes for granted that you know some C++ and kind of takes for granted that you know some DSPs. So for instance, in the first 5 pages, it's going to throw at you terms like Nyquist frequency and impulse responses, and I guess even filter kernels and all that good stuff. So there is a lot of terminology involved here. So I think that the activity I propose for us is to go over this first chapter. It's only 14 pages, but to really understand what's going on. And I think that if we can really understand what's going on here, we'll be in the same page. Like, you will need to understand sampling, you will need to understand the sampling theorem, you'll need to understand some basic algorithms on digital signal processing, things that if you have no idea what they are about, you can even go on this very channel and go back into the history. You will find videos about simple delays. One sample delay was like our first stream together using JS Effects area, I think, the one sample delay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So you can go back and watch that one. And there are some excellent resources that I will put here on this repository for you to learn all about sampling, the Nyquist frequency, and how sampling doesn't mean that you will lose information. It's not the case that digital is going to lose information when compared to analog. So there are many things that we need as like the foundation, even things like what is a sample? A sample is a number, but how do you choose numbers to correspond to sound? How does that even work? And things that we for sure covered on this channel before, but are also mentioned here on this chapter and on the other book I mentioned. So I thought that the first activity could be just go over this chapter and try to really understand if there is a word or a term that doesn't make sense, like DC, try to understand, find out what that is. So that's one activity I propose. So what are your proposals? Do you have other ideas?
I actually have a book by the author, which is Designing Software Synthesizers. And it kind of actually has the same issue where it expects you to know a lot of stuff going into it, which is how I wound up searching for additional information and up here. But from the just outline of that book, it looks like that's a better one to start on than this particular one.
That's the impression that I got from what I read on the web and from what Justin shared with us when he was on the stream. It seems like this book that you have is the follow-up to the one that I have on that I had on the screen. So you start by reading the designing audio effects, and then you will have the basic understanding of the theory, and then you can go and read the synthesizers one. And another thing to note about this book, that besides kind of expecting that you know some of the basics, is that from what I read on the web, I wouldn't be able to tell, but from what I read on the web, it seems like the code that they have on the book is not using the latest and greatest in terms of features in C++. So the code may not necessarily be a super nice example of how to write C++. So we have to take the code with a grain of salt. But I think that the concept of going from theory to practice is great, because if you start reading about DSP, it is going to get very hairy very quickly. And if someone can take us by the hand and show us how to translate these concepts into code, I think that's helpful. And at least for the kind of style that I have, reading code is often easier than reading mathematics. So that's a nice thing as well. So
did you post that link somewhere?
No, I will put all the links on the GitHub stuff, but you can just search for designing audio effects, audio effect plugins in C++. Right. So do you all have other ideas of things that we should cover? I think we already have of course, running JUCE, just making sure that we can all download Producer and produce a project. And this book is not going to use JUCE. It's kind of framework agnostic. So we could try to just make JUCE work and then follow the book, but not use the framework that they have for the book. It's a framework developed by the author of the book. We can just try to translate that into JUCE and see if the promise that it's framework agnostic really pays off. So do you all have other ideas of things that we should be doing besides exploring JUCE and trying to grasp the basic concepts?
Is there anything you need to have other than like Visual Studio? If you know, like what's a starter pack for writing C++? Are there any programs you would need?
Yeah, sure. So there are some things you're going to need. You can go with the easy route, or you can go with the complicated route. The easy route is use Producer. You can go to the JUCE website, download Producer, and Producer is going to generate a project that you can open in Xcode. Xcode is similar to Visual Studio Code that I know you use. So it's similar to Visual Studio Code. It's going to open a project and you're going to see the files and you're going to edit the files. But it also comes with the whole rest of the ecosystem. It comes with everything you need to build the project, to install dependencies, all of that in one package. So Xcode for Mac, you download that, you open Producer, generate a project, run it with Xcode. And that will be that. And that's the easy route. The hard route is you use something like CMake. And then you have to go down to the command line and you have to learn how to run some commands. But I think I am going to use Xcode unless I really have to do something else.
But it can't be Visual Studio. Like you need Xcode specifically, yeah?
Yeah, so
okay.
Using Visual Studio Code, you would be going through the hard route. You would have to do everything on the command line.
Okay.
Which is...
Do Producer works under Windows?
Sorry, what was that?
Nobody knows. Do Producer works under Windows?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it allows to compile the whole software with him itself?
Not really. What Producer is going to do is, on Windows, it's going to generate a Visual Studio project. So there's something that we have to clear out here. Visual Studio is not the same as Visual Studio Code. What Arya knows, for instance, is Visual Studio Code. So that's a text editor mostly. It doesn't come with compilers and all the tools, linkers, all the tools you would need to produce a program in the end. It's just a text editor, and very good one at that, but it's just a text editor. Visual Studio Code is that. Visual Studio is more like Xcode on the Mac. So it's an IDE. It comes with everything. It comes with the compiler, comes with the linker, comes with debuggers. It comes with everything. So you just generate, using Producer, generate a Visual Studio project, and then open Visual Studio for Windows. There is a free version of Visual Studio on Windows. And then you can just run and compile the project from Visual Studio. And that is going to generate a VST. Or if you're using Pro Tools, it's going to generate an AAX. And then you can drop that into your plugins folder and load it on your Reaper, on your Ableton Live, or whatever you use.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
I just posted another thing. I totally forgot about Cabbage. This is a framework that I actually installed just because I found some plugins that didn't have any builds. And I downloaded the source code. I loaded it into Cabbage and then compiled it and ran it in Reaper. And it worked. So a Cabbage is like an all-in-one solution. You just write code on it and you export the plugin from the same application.
Interesting. I didn't know that. So it's tying together all these things, and it seems like it's using C sound, which is something else.
Yeah, but if the framework itself was built in C++, as you can see on the GitHub. 99.3% is made in C++. But yeah, C sound, I think it's like another variation of C. I don't remember exactly what C sound is. Let me
C
check.
sound is a different language. So it's like JS effects at that. It's a different language that is also for processing audio, but it's a different language altogether. And I think that you may be able to use some of the modules because it's a language that comes with a lot more facilities than JS effects. So it comes with like filters and noise generators, oscillators, all those things. And I think that you can use these components in other languages if you want. But C sound, it's its own little universe.
Yeah, it's like a Super Collider or Sonic Pi or Foxdot or those things that allow you to do live coding. I have seen some people who are making concerts, actually live coding music in concerts. That's pretty cool. So being a dude with a laptop on stage is no longer a nerdy thing. It's the hip, cool thing to do now. Hey, look, I'm coding live in front of an audience.
But did you try that? I tried using Sonic Pi, for instance, and it is great fun, but it may be me, but I couldn't be musical with it. I was always like, oh, I guess I need to refactor this part here and there, and I could never make some piece of music that I like the way it sounded.
Yeah, I did try Super Collider a little bit and wasn't particularly thrilled. I guess I'm too stuck in DAWs in my head. I have to go to a different mindset.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So more ideas of things that you want to cover for next meeting?
How about we... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
We can't hear you.
Days, what we all are supposed to have done, if it's in return more concrete, then we would be more motivated.
Well, I don't want to prescribe what you all should do. I think that you can be self-directed and explore what you want. I think that it's a nice idea to go over one of the frameworks, JUCE, probably the most popular one, but you can try DPF, you can try iPlug. Just go over one of the frameworks and make sure that you can build something that you can drop in a digital audio workstation and make it work. And then learn the basics of how audio is represented digitally. So learn the basics of sampling, know what DC is, what Nyquist frequency is, what a filter does, that sort of thing. Just like having enough vocabulary to have a conversation about that. But other than that, I don't want to necessarily have like an assignment kind of thing.
I had a suggestion. Maybe for next time we could, each one of us could make a list of what we want or need from a plugin, or what we aspire to make from this case study, and maybe showcase some examples of our favorite plugins or our favorite uses in not necessarily plugins, or maybe some cool thing that you heard in a song on the radio sometime and you want to replicate that. It could be anything. We should write the reason why we're doing this.
Yeah, I think that having goals is definitely important. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea.
And make sure that, I guess this is sort of an assignment that I'm prescribing. Make sure that you share with me your GitHub handle so that I can invite you to the repository. where we'll share the links and the code and everything.
Yeah, I am in there local already.
Awesome. So I guess that is the homework that we all have. So to come up with the goal, what we want to build, or something that we like and we would want to understand how it works. Maybe we don't want to build anything, we just want to understand how something works, and that's a nice goal to have. And
sorry, can I ask a side question here?
yes.
Xcode is 40 gigabytes.
No, it's like 10.
Wow.
Huh?
It's like 10.
Oh, because I'm seeing here, it's saying requires you to have 40 gigabytes or more disk space, or you'll get the error there is not enough disk space to install the product.
Oh, so maybe you need that much available to be able to install it, but it's not going to consume that much after you installed it. It's like when you update macOS, you know what I mean? When you update the operating system, you need some disk space for the operating system to temporarily use. But yeah, it will be 10 gigabytes on your disk, yes.
Oh, yikes. So I guess Cabbage, I'm going to check out Cabbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can get some space together, hopefully. We'll see.
Try a thumb drive. Install Xcode on a thumb drive. No, I don't think you can do that. I think it needs to be on your operating system disk.
That's the thing. Like, if you're downloading stuff from the old freaking Mac store, it just doesn't let you do anything to it. It's just like it's installed, which I really find disrespectful. It's like they think I'm so damn stupid that there's no way I can possibly understand the inner workings of their installation process. So yeah, I guess we'll see what I can do.
Well, you can definitely use the command line stuff, and I haven't used it myself, but I don't think it will be the end of the world to set everything up. So let us know how it goes.
Would it be like similar to just like you install a few like dependencies, some code bases, and then you're just off to the races?
I suppose you are going to need to install the compiler. So it's not just installing dependencies, you will need to install the compiler itself. And I suppose that on the Mac, you're going to just want to install the Xcode command line tools. So there is Xcode, which is like everything, the editor, the debugger, everything, the whole thing. But there is also the Xcode command line tools, which is just the compiler, the build tool. It's more streamlined. It's definitely less than 13 gigabytes. It's more like maybe half a gigabyte, something like that. So you install that, and then you have all the tools available to you on the command line. You can call the compiler, which on the Mac is, you probably want to use Clang or Clang. And then you will need also CMake. If you want to use JUCE, you can produce a CMake project. So CMake is just going to coordinate. You will have to compile many files. You have to put all of them together. So CMake is going to orchestrate all this work for you. So you will need to go and install CMake as well. I'm sure there will be tutorials on how to do this for JUCE, for iPlug, for whatever you want to use.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I don't know if somebody mentioned it already, but the Audio Programmer YouTube channel is cool and has some JUCE like starter videos kind of deal.
Yes, that's a good one, actually. And they also have a podcast and everything where they talk about audio programming with audio programmers. So if you're interested in maybe making this your day job, then it could be nice to listen to all that and see what the space is like. Right, so anything else that you all want to add? I think that we have plenty to cover until the 15th.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I think I've spoken a lot.
I was saying,
All right. Go ahead.
there are many terms that I'm not familiar with, and if you don't tell me the specifics, then I won't be able to get anything done because I would be just forgetting about them after this call.
Yeah, so
I don't know the more specific things.
okay, so I guess the recommendation I have for you is go to the repository and to the Discord channel and to all those places. They are all linked together. So if you go to one, you will find every other one. But in there, I will have like meeting notes of sorts, and we will all have access to the repository so we can all edit and add and anything that I may have missed. But in there will be like recommended readings and maybe some terms that I think are important for you to understand. So you can go there and treat that as a sort of homework, so to speak. But I really don't want to be like in the position of like prescribing what people should be doing. It's not like it's a group of self-directed learners, not necessarily like a teacher and homeworks and assignments and that sort of thing, right?
If everybody is going in different directions, then how would we get the stuff done?
We all meet and we share what we've done. Like, for instance, Fotis, I'm sure will go learn about clap. So he will share with us what clap is all about. And I am interested in visualization. So I'll probably go off to some tangent and find out how to draw the gain reduction on a compressor, for instance, something like that, or the gain reduction over time on a compressor, which is more like what I'm interested in doing. So I'll go off and do that, and then we'll meet in 15 days and we'll share what we learn. So we'll get different things done, and then you may have questions like, oh, I cannot really understand what a low-pass filter is, and then we can try to explain, or I will not be able to understand some mathematics or some C++, and then Victor is going to say, oh, C++ works like this. This is how you do it. And we'll go from there.
Oh, and to answer your question, the DC offset is a very low frequency, non-musical one that can be very dangerous. It can happen if you're recording a direct signal on a guitar, or maybe with a bass enhancement plugin, or there are other ways you can introduce that. And it can be dangerous, especially if your speakers are DC coupled and you play this ultra low frequency. It can blow them up. I'm not joking. But luckily, all modern DAWs have a DC offset removal option.
Sometimes with JSFX, I've seen this happen where if you print it on your file, it looks like there's a DC offset, but it's mostly probably just bad math in the plugin.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I've seen it happen too with chiptune music. It looks like it has DC offset, but it doesn't. It's just the shape of the waveforms.
And there is, like DC offset, there are many other terms of art in the space of digital signal processing. So it pays off to just use some plugins. So if you are new to just using plugins, or even using digital audio workstations, or working with audio in general, I will put some links in the GitHub thing. But it pays off to just understand the basics, like what is even the point of processing audio, and what kinds of audio processors people typically use, like what is an EQ, compressor. Those are I guess the two big ones, but there are also delays and reverbs that are kind of important for musically, and noise suppression. So it pays off to just know what the kinds of plugins even are. So I'll put some links for like very introductory stuff that you can do on your own to learn about this. And I guess the first 2 weeks is just to see what this...
Read chapter 1.
Yeah. Read chapter 1. Try to make sense of things. See where we can go. And set goals. I think that setting goals is the important part. All right. More comments, suggestions, or questions before we wrap up?
So there is a whole bunch of things that people can have questions about the math, about the framework, about C++, music even. Maybe we should set up a Discord that has separate channels or something for those topics.
Oh, great idea.
Yeah, we can do that. To be honest, I don't really care too much how we are going to communicate. We may have multiple channels. We may just be on one channel because right now we have one channel. We may use Discord and email and GitHub. I mean, it's just the way things work these days. There's no single place that everyone agrees on. So, yeah, making sense of all this information is exactly the challenge of these days, I guess.
Yeah, because let's not forget that there are actually two types of DSP. In plugins, there are instrument plugins and there are effect plugins. And maybe some of us only want to make instruments, some of us may only want to make effects, and some of us may only want to make both. So it would be a good idea to categorize things in a Discord or the GitHub page.
Okay. Yeah, whatever you all think works better for you. If you think that using Discord is better, you do that. If you prefer to use GitHub, if you prefer to use email, this Skype chat. Yeah. All right. So shall we wrap up?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, you all, for being here. I'm looking forward to learning from you all. I'm sure it will have a great time together. And I see you in 14 days, I guess. 14 days. I see you in 2 weeks. Same time, Tuesday, 2 weeks from now. We'll gather again and we'll share what we learned. And we will probably also have a list of questions that we want to ask, like, what is the Nyquist frequency? Or how do I get this compiler to freaking compile C++ for me?
That's the scariest thing.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
So goodbye, everyone.
Adios.
DSP!